So welcome everybody. This is What's Up for You, and it is June 14th, 2022. So while you guys are putting your questions in the chat, I'm just going to check in with everybody just for a second, and then we'll go from there. So there's some pretty big energy moving these days, to say the least. And I was noticing myself. I mean, we just had a full moon last night, and so that can be part of it. But it's just waves upon waves that are still kind of coming in, and they will continue to come in for the unforeseeable future. We've probably a few years of this, actually, not just months or weeks or whatever. It's like we've got waves upon waves. The good part is that we get better equipped at handling those waves, at some point in this process. So, what I will say from the get-go is take good care of yourselves, have compassion for where you are, have love for yourself. It's like every single person on the planet is going through this transformation, and it really does require a lot of self-care. And a long time ago, I remember, the kids saying things to me about self-care. And I thought at that time, I thought self-care was, okay, I'll go down to working 40 hours a week instead of working 60 hours a week or something like that. It's much deeper than that. I mean, self-care is really care for the various aspects of ourselves that are coming up at any given time. And so this is a moment by moment process. And being willing to ask for support, I was learning that one this morning myself. I'm currently away. I'm having 5 days of body work done. So I'm in day 4 right now. And, and just as all of that information starts rising up because things are moving and things are changing, being able to say, hey, this is a hard day, or this is a challenge. And it was this morning, it was just like that. So, but again, all of this energy has to move up and out. So we want to have compassion for ourselves when it does start moving, when we just have a hard day. Yeah. So anyway, let's see. You have some things for me, Sharon?
I do.
Okay.
In the past few months, I have been offered and have accepted about 8 different part-time jobs, which then all dissolved before I even started them for different external reasons. But the same pattern is coming up. And it seems to be an old familiar stuck pattern of wanting to put myself out there, but there's a pulling back. It is like a yes and no pattern, and it feels very old, and I'd like to release it. Any thoughts would be appreciated.
Well, let's make a perceptual shift, because one of the things that's happening right now is we think that everything that's coming up um, from our we think that everything that's coming up is an old pattern, right? And what I just want to suggest is it may not be the pattern, but the perception of the pattern. So we might have a pattern. You're saying you have a pattern where things get close and then they back up, and then they get close and then they back up. So we can perceive that through the lens of there's something wrong with me. I got to fix that broken part of myself. Or we can shift that perception to that which is coming close is not quite in alignment with who I am, and therefore it goes back out. And I will tell you right now, you are in uh, a fluctuating pattern. It's not just you, everybody on the planet is in some pattern of fluctuation. And so, again, it's not what's arising, but how we meet what's arising that's more important. So, can we shift that perception to, these things that are coming close and then backing up, that's actually in your highest and best interest? That's actually your highest and best. So, let's claim excuse me, let's claim that highest and best for ourselves, and then assume that everything that comes in after that is matching that highest and best. And the mind will say, yeah, but I need that job, or I need that experience. I need that right here, right now. What you need right here, right now, if I can put it that way strongly, is to be aligned with who you are, to be aligned with the bigger part of yourself, so that what is for you just slides right in and comes to you. So make that alignment first, right? Make that alignment first. Highest and best for me. Feel into that space within your body, your mind, your emotions. What would it feel like to have the experience, or have the job, or have whatever it is that is truly in your highest and best interest? And if you just spend a few moments there, you're going to know what that feels like. That's what we're replacing. There's something wrong with me, and therefore things keep coming and going. That's the replacement for it. And the more you stay in that energy, the more all of a sudden something comes in, and it's the right fit, and it's the right money, it's the right experience, and you know it because it's right there with you, right? Because you've called it forth. Yeah. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's helpful. All right.
All right, this question is, how best to work energetically with diagnosis of lung and bone cancer?
Mm. Well, okay. This I'm going to say, I'm hearing it this way. So I'm going to say to you, my daughter, when she was 13, had bone cancer. She had Ewing sarcoma. So, and I very much wanted to treat it just energetically. I wanted to, not just energetically, but I wanted to go a more holistic route. And as soon as I heard this question, I'm just hearing what I've heard before. So I actually contacted a friend who was a medical intuitive at the time, Laura Alden Cam, and she might be somebody that you want to reach out to. But at that time, Laura said, Suzy, I know what you want to do. And I know that you want it to be just in the energetic realm. But when things are aggressive like this, and the body is needing the right medicine to match the condition. So all I'm going to say here is I would is really activate all of your choices. Activate what is in the greatest, highest and best for this individual. Yep, either whether that's for you or for somebody that you're supporting through this. So, yeah, you really want to activate the highest and best. And the highest and best is just that. It's the highest and best, and we don't always know what that is. But I will say that in my own experience with my daughter's bone cancer, we ended up finding we had an allopathic oncologist. We also had a naturopathic oncologist that used supplements and things like that. So I would definitely look at this from the medical perspective as well. And then to answer your question about the energetics, the thing that I am hearing, didn't think about this during the time of my daughter's experience, but so this is good to have in retrospect. As you are seeing her, you are seeing this person or seeing yourself from the place of your totality, this is an element and an aspect of your totality. It already resides within your wholeness, right? It already resides within your wholeness. So seeing it again, not as something that is broken per se, but something that is attempting to come back into balance. Yep. And so, yeah, seeing it from totality, part of the whole. It's already part of the whole. It's the experience, it's on a journey. It's moving through. The way I'm seeing it is it's moving through some old imprinting into a new imprint. It's moving from feeling separate to the potential of wholeness. Yep, to knowing that. And again, how we know wholeness or how we come to that, however, that is in the highest and best interest of any given individual, is really up to that individual. But we can hold that energy and wholeness as a support. Yeah. I just want to add one more thing because Maria, my daughter, said something to me at one point. She said, Mom, she goes, this is not your cancer. This is not your experience. This is my experience. And I need to do it the way I'm designed to do it, not the way you're designed to do it. And this lovely woman is now an oncology nurse and has empathy, out the wazoo because she's been there, she knows it, she's had that experience. So that's sometimes, yeah, yeah, I'll just put it that way. So,
All right, this question is, so many of our kids have been having seizures, including kids that have been seizure free for years. Can you look at this energetically and comment on anything you're seeing?
yeah, yeah, this, how do I want to say this? Blah, 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 blah. Um, as part of our energetic reboot, if you will, as part of our up leveling, you might say, we are, there are two things kind of happening. The energy that's coming through is much stronger. It feels like it's going to bowl you over sometimes. Those waves of energy are all encompassing. So if you have an individual that has a predisposition towards anything, towards seizure activity, let's say, or anything else that we might have a predisposition towards, that energy is going to be activated again in these more refined waves. It's like each wave of energy is digging into our totality more than the wave before. So if there is a predisposition, one, that can very easily be activated again. Secondarily, when we have, especially children on the spectrum, children who are energetically sensitive, I've looked at seizure activity from maybe that broader perspective for a really long time. And seizure activity almost always is an up leveling of some sort. It's almost like there's too much energy running through the body. That energy gets caught someplace, within that neurological process. And in order to kind of try to move through that process, it it creates a seizure, right? It creates, you might say that as that energy is coming through, it can't move through while that individual is conscious. So that individual becomes unconscious, right? In that seizure activity, the body moves, right? The body will move that energy through it while that individual is unconscious to get that through. That does not mean that we do not look at that kind of activity from a medical perspective as well, because sometimes there is a neurological condition where I see this a lot, where when I'm looking at the neurology of some children, there will be a space that just doesn't connect. It's almost like the information is trying to move through the neurology, through all those synaptic connections from one part of the brain to another, and it gets into like a no man's zone, or it gets into like a, sometimes they almost look like little black holes where the energy goes through and it just spirals. And as it spirals, it needs something to kick it in or kick it over. And that usually is what a seizure shows up as. Yeah. So we want to we want to look at it from all the different vantage points that we can look at it from. And we also want to maybe hold or recognize that again, I mean, I had seizures as a kid. So seizure activity can be really scary. I mean, for a parent, for the person going through it, can be really scary. But what I would suggest is that as we are holding that experience as just that, it's an experience, it's something that that individual is moving through. And if we can hold that again in totality, in wholeness, that that is not a broken part, but it is something that is coming into wholeness. Because a lot of times we just add energy to everything that we think that's wrong with us, or everything that we think is wrong with somebody else. We're just adding separation energy to that. And we're getting to that place in collective human history, as far as our where we are in our collective evolutionary state, where we're attempting to make this pivot from what is wrong and what is broken, what is separate, to what is whole, what is unified, what is, yeah, purposeful. Yeah. And even as I say that, I can recognize and say to anybody who is watching a child have a seizure that it's scary. Yep, it's scary in those moments from that human perspective. But if we can remind ourselves of that, it'll lighten that energy, and it'll put us in that, mm, it'll put us kind of in a new field of consciousness. We're rising above what that situation is, and we're helping that individual rise above what that situation is. Yeah, I hope that works. Helpful. Hmm.
All right, I'm going to summarize this question because it's very long.
Okay.
It is the mom is worried about the son because she has a special connection with him, and during the middle of the school year, she lost the connection. It
Mm-hmm.
changed actually, not, and so she has a fear that she's pushing him away.
Mm-hmm.
And then she also wants him to gain his independence, and he's not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that one. And then she's a little bit afraid because her son's stepfather and he have a strained relationship, and she wants freedom for both, and she's feeling pressured between the two, and she's feeling confused. Any insights would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So first, we can't grant freedom to somebody else, not even our children, as much as we might like to. We really can't grant them that freedom. We can support ourselves in finding our freedom, finding our own freedom. And again, we find that freedom by expanding ourselves into like the next iteration of our consciousness. And we can do that simply by intent. There's no, magic here. It's like well, there is magic here, but there is not in this way. So it's easier. The magic is easier than one might think, because as we kind of choose that highest frequency for ourselves, as we choose um, what is highest and best within our alignment, within our own energy, we start moving out into that field. And as we move out into that field and as we express from that field, we then give the opportunity to others to step into that field as well, right? So that's one piece of your question. But the other piece of your question that I think is really important for us all to understand, especially when it comes to relationship right now. Again, every single human on this planet is going through their own evolutionary process. And where we were interconnected and interwoven with somebody, we were maybe maybe we were like playing in the same soup as they were, right? And then all of a sudden, we're separated from them. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's simply that the two of you are growing at different rates. And again, if we cannot see it as something wrong or something broken, then we don't go into fear. If we can just see it from the standpoint of, oh, my son is going through, I mean, just by virtue of his age, he might be seeking some of his own autonomy and not quite know how to do that yet. But even beyond that, with this one, what I'm seeing is that there was almost like a way in which you were interconnected in your consciousness or where you were experiencing your consciousness. And you guys are just moving at different rates right now. And that's beautiful. That's fine. You want everybody to move in their own way at their own pace. And as we kind of go back to ourselves and we claim that next iteration of ourselves for ourselves, as we choose that which is highest and best for ourselves, every single time we have that fear, that anxiety, that stress, let's go right back to that within ourselves. Understand it for what it is. It's just an old program, right? And go right back to, okay, I'm choosing in this moment the next iteration of myself. I'm choosing to expand into what is in the highest and best, knowing that what's in the highest and best for you ends up being in the highest and best for those around you. Yeah. All right. That's it.
All right, this question is, please talk about how to discern soul-led goals versus ego-based goals.
I love this question. Well, ego-based goals, you typically don't get what you want. So that's the easy way. So if it's just ego-based, if it's just the mind or the limited self, the conditioned self telling you, I want this or I want that or I should have this or I should have that, usually doesn't work so well. It's when we are in alignment with our, let's say, I, I'll be honest, I don't know if this is in alignment with our soul or in alignment with our higher selves or in alignment with whatever that, again, I keep seeing it as this next iteration of ourselves, this broader expression of ourselves that we're all growing into now. So when we choose to align with that, what you'll notice is things get a little easier, things get a little bit more fluid. And from the standpoint of what comes to you is for you, what comes to you is a match for what you are requesting. Yep. When the mind is just going, I should have this, or I do want that, or this will make me this, that, or the other thing. I mean, that bigger part of you wants so much for you to know you. Yep, to know that bigger part of you, that it's not going to give you something that's less than that, right? So yeah, so it's, again, it might be easier than we think. It is always easier than we think. It's sometimes if we can just feel into something, asking ourselves, why do we want something that we think that we want, or that we just asking, and then aligning whatever it is with what's highest and best for us. And then get out of the way, just we get out of the way and see what shows up next. And I know this one all too well. I'm going, no, that's not what it is. That's not what I asked for. That's not what I want. And that only works for so long. Um, yeah, we want what is, so that we can either choose again, or so that we can get the reflection back of what and who we actually are. Yeah. Okay.
All
Is
right.
anything?
This question is, I'm going to summarize it a little bit. This person is having a huge trigger right at this moment about being misunderstood and having their own uniqueness collapse into someone else's perception.
Ooh,
And
good one.
yeah, she was triggered because I think I combined her question with somebody else's,
Uh-huh.
and it's just bringing up huge feelings for her and a lot of release, her own projection on her part, and just wanted to know what you could see to help her move through.
Mm, mm. Thank you for number one, for the clarity within yourself and the honesty to just say that. I mean, it's like that that's amazing. So thank you for that. So the only thing I want to say here is that, every time we have a trigger and we recognize that trigger, we have this beautiful opportunity to just ask ourselves, not just what is that bringing up within us, but let me see, hold on a second. You're reorienting me already, so that's great. It's like the thing that you're seeking is to not be lumped into you're seeking not to be lumped into a an idea or a concept, or there's a lot of energy around that for you. It's like, don't it's almost like, what I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm off on this, but what I'm hearing is, don't tell me, um, don't limit me, don't tell me who I am, don't put me in a category, don't put me in a box, don't, it's like, and what I want to say is, right, there's that energy, and also within that is the one who is saying that, the part of you that is conscious and is aware and knows, and is really asking now at this time in your life experience, is really asking for that to be valued, to be acknowledged. And again, we can't always get somebody else to see or acknowledge that in the way that we want them to, until we see that and acknowledge that within ourselves, right? So there's just this pivot. It's like, I think you can already feel her. I'm going to call it her. That that part of you that, like, it comes out like, don't you dare lump me into a, a group or a category, or a, don't you dare do that. It's like, because I'm unique, because I have something to offer, because I am not just that, I am more than that. And so whatever that piece is for you, I just want you to hold her, love her, go right into her, acknowledge that she's right. She's right. And the more that that takes place, the more you're going to find that people are going to go, oh, I see you. They're going to reflect something back different to you. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome to do it that way.
Okay, so now I see what she was talking about. And let me just, so she has,
Well, can I stop you for a second, Sharon? Don't correct it.
okay.
Let's not correct it because it was really beautiful just the way it played out. And I know with your big heart and everything else, you want to kind of fix this a little bit. You want to make it okay. And I I'm going to invite you to something too. Yeah. It's like just really inviting. You're so nurturing and you're so supporting. And I know that you never want to do anything that's, yeah, creates any riff whatsoever. But I also want you to just sit in that right now because it's like, she's good. She's really good. She did exactly what was needed. Yeah.
Yes, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that the person who I combined it with got her question asked
Okay.
and,
Okay.
or
Okay.
answered, and she
Okay.
did. So it,
Okay. Good. Okay. Good. Okay. Good. Thank you. Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, um,
Hmm.
that's it.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. No more questions, anybody? So I want to, yeah, so let's just, that whole energy, this is such an amazing one to really sit with and sit in again for each and every one of us. I could feel stuff rising up. Every one of us is going to feel different pieces of that, which is what's so beautiful about bringing it into conscious awareness or actually expressing it out loud. Um, so let's just sit with this for just a second because there's not one of us here that does not recognize and realize that there is something beautiful and unique and special within each and every one of us, right? There's not a person here that wants to be corrected or to be put into a box or to and that I'm bringing this up because this is part of our next iteration of our own consciousness, of our own evolution, whatever you want to call that. This is what we're growing into, right? We're growing into our own uniqueness, allowing others to have their own uniqueness, not feeling slighted by or less than anybody else, but just fully in the awareness of who we are in truth, right? So everywhere where there are those aspects of self that are, oh man, I can feel my heart just is like, um, everywhere where there are those aspects of self that have hung on as some kind of protective mechanism because maybe we didn't feel safe being the bigger part of who we are. Maybe it wasn't safe to be seen or easy to be seen, right? All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and pull all that energy up and out of our fields and place it in a sphere out in front of us. Oh, blue star it. But that blue star, your wholeness, your totality, that part of you that already knows, already whole, that's that blue star that goes into that information. It spins it all to clear. It kind of absorbs it into its wholeness until that sphere is completely clear. And then we'll compress and condense that clear sphere back into that blue star. And we're going to hand off that blue star to that part of you that knows, that part of you that is ready, willing, and able to allow that totality of you, that wholeness of you to really shine. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. All right. Nice deep breath, everybody. All right. Lots of love, and I will see you next time. All right.